I rubbed my tired eyes in the sterile glow of the lab monitors, the hum of machinery my only companion in the dead of night, as coastal wind howled faintly against the reinforced glass, carrying an inexplicable chill that seeped into my bones. Shadows danced across the screens, displaying endless streams of data from the void beyond, numbers and graphs blurring into abstractions of infinity, pulling at the edges of my sanity like fragments from a dream I couldn't shake. My apartment waited empty miles away, a hollow remnant of a life spent chasing stars, where nights blurred into days and human touch felt as distant as the galaxies I studied. Yet tonight, that familiar isolation carried an unnamed weight, a prickling at the back of my neck, as if the darkness outside was watching, waiting for something to break the silence. The alert chimed softly at first, an innocuous ping amid the sea of data feeds, but it sliced through the lab's hum like a scalpel. I straightened in my chair, blinking away the fatigue from hours of staring at telemetry streams. Vanguard 7, the name flashed on the screen, pulling me back to a project I'd filed away as a ghost in the archives. Launched a decade ago to probe the Veil Nebula cluster, it had vanished into the cosmic static, presumed lost to some navigational glitch or micrometeoroid swarm. We didn't mourn probes, they were just metal husks hurled into the void. But now, here it was, transmitting again, coordinates placing it on a ballistic return to Earth, data packets flooding in like a burst dam. Excitement bubbled within me, tainted by a sharp unease I couldn't identify. The initial scans were off. Energy readings spiked in patterns that defied our atmospheric models, and the images showed distorted, grainy glimpses of the probe's hull enveloped in an iridescent mist swirling like liquid light. It wasn't dust or gas. It moved with purpose, tendrils curling around the probe's antennas as if embracing them. I ran diagnostics, cross-referencing with known phenomena, but nothing matched. My fingers flew over the keyboard, pulling up the raw feeds. There were audio anomalies, too. Faint, garbled sounds buried in the static, like voices stretched thin across light years. By morning, the firm had mobilized. I was pulled into a briefing with the recovery team, a ragtag group of engineers and security personnel buzzing with the thrill of a potential breakthrough. We choppered to a remote desert landing site in the Nevada Badlands, an isolated stretch where failures could be buried without fuss. The air was dry and hot as we touched down, the probe's descent capsule already pinpointed by satellite tracking, a blackened pod half buried in sand, trailing wisps of what looked like smoke. We approached cautiously, suited up in hazmat gear, though no one could say why. The pod's surface shimmered unnaturally, coated in that same iridescent film from the images. One technician, a young guy named Reyes, no relation to Cecilia, as far as I knew, reached out with a gloved hand to brush it away. "Just residue," he muttered. His fingers touched the mist, and the cloud expanded in an instant, blooming outward like a living thing. Reyes screamed, a muffled gurgle, as his arm dissolved. Not burned, not melted, but broken down into vapor, particles scattering into the swirl. His body followed, collapsing inward as if his very atoms were unraveling, his face twisting in agony before it faded into fog. Panic erupted. The team scattered, shouts turning to cries as the clouds spread, engulfing the mobile lab tents. Structures dissolved like sugar in water, metal and plastic hissing into mist. I bolted to my vehicle, heart pounding, slammed the door, and gunned the engine across the dunes. In the rear view, the cloud swelled, a shimmering wall on the horizon, and from it came those distortions, like the team's screams replayed through a broken filter. I radioed bass, but static drowned my words, laced with what sounded like pleas.
Help! It's inside! Void!
The drive back to the coastal city blurred in a haze of adrenaline and dread. News feeds on my dashboard screen downplayed it all. Atmospheric anomaly at test site. No cause for alarm. Bullshit. I knew what I'd seen, and the stolen data drive in my pocket burned like a guilty secret. Back in my apartment, I barricaded the door with furniture and drew the blinds against the ocean view that now felt too exposed. The city lights twinkled below, oblivious, but I could feel it, that prickling at my neck, like the void was leaking in. I plugged in the drive, my computer whirring to life with Vanguard 7's logs. The probe had flown too close to the nebula. That much was clear. But the data revealed something impossible. During the flyby, it encountered life. Not microbial or biological in any sense we understood, but an ancient, vast entity composed of ionized gases and quantum fields, born from the corpse of a collapsed star system. It latched onto the probe, using it as a vector, a bridge to Earth. The logs detailed the attachment. Tendrils of mist infiltrating the hull, rewriting systems, turning our tech into a conduit for its migration. It consumed matter and assimilated consciousness to fuel its existence. A predatory intelligence, hungry for worlds. Sleep evaded me that night, replaced by dreams of endless voids where stars screamed as they were devoured. Morning brought worse. Reports of the clouds spreading to a nearby town, dismissed as fog from a chemical spill. I couldn't stay put. Grabbing my gear, I drove out, the highway empty under a leaden sky. The town was a ghost, buildings melting into haze, cars abandoned with doors ajar. I parked at the edge and ventured in on foot, mask tight over my face. The air thickened, and there, people, or what was left of them. A woman stumbled toward me, her skin dissolving into wisps, her eyes pleading as her form broke apart, absorbed into a swirling mass that pulsed with stolen light. I ran, diving into a basement stairwell and sealing the door with debris. The pressure built, oppressive, like the entity was pressing in, murmuring through the walls. I huddled there for hours, enduring the thickening air, until the presence receded enough for me to slip away. Back in the city, I wasn't alone for long. Cecilia Reyes contacted me, the engineer from my firm, sharp-eyed and tough, who'd fled the landing site in her own vehicle. She'd seen the dissolution too, and brought others. Braden Hale, a grizzled ex-military pilot with a stash of survival gear, and Hazel Voss, a young hacker who'd been intercepting probe signals for some underground network. We met in an abandoned warehouse on the industrial outskirts, the air heavy with the scent of rust and salt. "This thing's not stopping," Cecilia said, her voice steady, but eyes haunted. "We need a plan." We pooled what we had: my data drive, Hazel's encrypted intercepts, Braden's weapons, makeshift EMP devices and flare guns. Diving into the probe's black box, I pieced it together. The entity was a migratory predator, evolved from the remnants of an extinct star system billions of years ago. It manipulated matter at the quantum level, breaking down biomass to reproduce and expanding its consciousness like a virus. Earth was just the next host. It targeted life-rich worlds to swell its form, devouring minds to echo through its gaseous body. Our first move was risky, infiltrating a government archive for classified Vanguard 7 files. We slipped through the city under cover of night, dodging patrols while the cloud's tendrils patrolled the skies, living storms twisting like serpents of fog. Inside the archive, alarms blared, but we grabbed what we could. Files confirming the probe's path had brushed too close, inviting the entity. That night, nightmares struck hard. Visions of assimilation, my body unraveling into mist, joining the chorus of the devoured. Paranoia crept in. Every shadow murmured, every ally a potential vector. The catastrophe widened. Another major city fell, broadcasts cutting out mid-sentence as the cloud engulfed it. We watched on scavenged screens, refugees screaming, their bodies partially dissolving into grotesque apparitions, foggy wraiths that hunted the living, tendrils lashing out to pull more into the haze. Our group pushed north, aiding survivors where we could, and dodging these entities in high-speed chases. Vehicles dissolved behind us, tires melting into vapor, forcing us into subway tunnels beneath the ruins. Down there, in the flickering emergency lights, we encountered the worst. Mutated survivors, partially fused with the fog. Their bodies shimmered, skin translucent and veined with light, murmuring pleas through distortions, shadows that replayed memories of their absorption. One grabbed at me, his voice a distorted,
"Join us! Avoid his peace!"
I fired a flare, scattering him into wisps, but the horror lingered, burrowing into my mind. Deeper investigation uncovered a personal connection that twisted my gut. My late mentor, Dr. Harlan Voss, Hazel's estranged uncle, had designed the probe's navigation. Encrypted data suggested sabotage, deliberate tweaks to the trajectory that invited the entity, all to boost the firm's profits from exotic matter research. In the tunnel's dim light, I confronted Hazel. He knew. He pulled it here. She denied it initially, but the files didn't lie. My own complicity stared back, years of ignoring risks for grants and glory. We raided a surviving space agency outpost high in the mountains for orbital satellite access. The climb was hell, mist tendrils nipping at our heels, But we made it. Tracing the probe's path via star charts, I confirmed the entity had devoured other worlds, leaving husks of planets stripped bare. Its pattern was migratory, following gravitational wells to new feasts. Conflicts brewed within us. Hazel, ever the opportunist, suggested weaponizing fragments of the cloud, harnessing its power against rival nations to gain leverage in the chaos. "We could control it," she argued. I shut her down. This isn't about power. It's about survival. We contain it, or we all dissolve. We tested electromagnetic fields on small fragments, repelling them temporarily. But the entity adapted quickly, learning our tricks like a predator evolving mid-hunt. I volunteered for a solo run back to the crash site, now shrouded in perpetual fog, to retrieve the probe's data core. Navigating through the mist was like walking into a nightmare. Projections of absorbed victims replayed their deaths, ghostly figures dissolving in endless loops, their screams building to a cacophony. I pushed through, my atoms feeling loose, as if the entity were tasting me. The core was there, half melted, but intact. I grabbed it and ran, visions of lost loved ones, my parents, long gone, pleading from the haze, clawing at my resolve. With the core, we headed to a high-altitude observatory, our last bastion. The group rigged up equipment, deriving a counter-signal from the probe data, frequencies tuned to scatter the entity's quantum fields across dimensions. By then, the cloud had grown continent-sized, a vortex of screaming fog converging on us. We broadcast from the peak, but it assaulted the site, tendrils smashing through defenses. I activated the device and ventured into the storm. Hallucinations assaulted me, voids swallowing stars, my body pulling apart thread by thread. Distortions of the assimilated calling my name.
"Jared, join the embrace."
With shaking hands, I calibrated the signal, my astrophysics knowledge the only anchor amid the dissolving surroundings. Cecilia sealed a breach, but paid the price. Her form unraveling into mist, her final scream lost in the wind. Braden dove his scavenged plane into a massive tendril, exploding in a fireball to buy time. Isolated now, I felt the pull, my atoms straining, glowing veins spidering across my skin from the exposure. But I held on, broadcasting the signal worldwide. Fractures appeared in the cloud, pieces scattering like shattered glass as they retreated into the upper atmosphere, forced back towards space. The immediate aftermath brought a fragile quiet. Lingering atmospheric remnants caused isolated dissolutions. A tree here, a building there, unraveling at the edges. I survived, but changed. Glowing veins pulsed faintly, a mark of partial transformation, as if the entity had planted a seed within me. Hazel, my sole remaining ally, found me amid the ruins. Together we documented it all in a hidden log, a warning against probing the cosmos too deeply. Governments moved in, suppressing the probe's role and spinning tales of natural disasters. I wrestled with guilt, retreating to watch the skies, but the dread never left. Every night I scanned for anomalies, knowing it could return. And sometimes, in the quiet, I felt it stirring inside. A trace of the nebula's embrace, waiting to bloom.
Hey guys, it's Malice here. I really appreciate you sticking around until the end of the story. I'm a one-man operation and trying my best to grow, so if you like what you just heard, please leave me a like. Subscribe if you want to hear more, and please send me any reading requests you might have. I'm always struggling to find new content. Thanks again, and stay scared.